Hello and welcome to the Board of Directors regular meeting agenda. I don't have that one, sorry. Sorry, I'm a little tired. Can you please call the order?
Yes. Director Sailors.
Present.
Director Gould.
Here.
Director Wood.
Present.
Director Rice.
Here.
Director Weber. Director Clark. Director Jones.
Here.
Thank you. For the record, Directors Stark and President Costa are absent this evening.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll do the pledge to the flag. Brian, or excuse me, Director Rice. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have Metro Cable announcement. All of the dates and times and places you can visit this are all on our website. So please visit that if you choose to see this recording. Next, we have public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers in the room?
I have no speaker cards. Anyone online on Zoom, if you're wishing to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand feature. No public comments. Thank you.
Moving on to consent items. Do we have any questions on the consent items?
No, Mr. Chair, I move consent. Second.
We have a second and a first and a second. Can you please call the roll?
Yes. Director Sailors.
Aye.
Director Gould.
Aye.
Director Wood.
Aye.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Rice.
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. The consent calendar is adopted.
Are we now on to professional services agreement? Is that where we're at, Marnie?
We're now presentation items.
Thank you.
The recruitment, yes.
Recruitment and retention update with Melissa Meadows.
Stand by.
Good evening, directors, Chief House. I'm Melissa Maddox, the Chief Human Resource Officer with Metro Fire. We're here tonight to present to you the recruitment and retention update. There's two parts to this. One part is compliance with Government Code 3502.3, which is required once per fiscal year, usually with the preliminary budget. And basically, it's an update of recruitments and open positions, vacancies, that type of thing. The law went into effect January 1st of 2025. So this presentation has been on our radar for quite some time. But rather than just being in compliance with the presentation, we wanted to expand on the information and provide additional information about our recruitment efforts and retention efforts. And that is why I have Captain White and Captain Ellis with me tonight. So they'll be the second part of the presentation. And we also wanted to respond to some board member questions regarding our paramedic and process recruitment that we recently held and the success that we got with that. So again, the purpose of the sorry, I'm not following my own PowerPoint. The purpose of the policy is to provide transparency regarding the workforce vacancies, review recruitment and retention efforts, and identify barriers and improvement opportunities. So I'm going to start off with the authorized position summary. These numbers are directly from the 26-27 preliminary budget PAD. So Office of the Fire Chief has 5, Operations has 560, Support Services has 167, Administration has 45. So it's a total of 777. And as I said, those numbers are all from the PAD. But as you know, the PAD is used for budgetary purposes. And it's updated basically 3 times a year during prelim, mid-year, and final. But with that, the staff also keeps track of our positions throughout the year using what we call the PTR, which is the Position Tracking Report. This report was created back in 2024 and is updated monthly by HR in coordination with Operations, Support Services, Administration, the Office of the Fire Chief. And basically we're keeping track of all the current and future staffing needs of the district on a monthly basis. It looks very similar to the PAD that you're more familiar with. However, it has additional columns that include established positions, budgeted positions, filled positions, in process positions, and positions that we need in the future. We also keep detailed notes at the end of this report that not only document the historical changes that happen either to the PTR or the PAD, but it also helps us keep track of what we're going to need in the future. This PTR, the Position Tracking Report, is also provided to executive staff and the Board of Directors once a month for review. So these, back to the PAD numbers, these are the authorized positions for suppression in the MMP ranks currently. MMP, the PAD has 86, including the 10% pool. Firefighter is 264, which includes the 10% pool. Engineers 132, captains 135, and battalion chief is 15. As you can see from the slide, that does not include day positions. That's just straight line suppression positions. This is the vacancies in the suppression and MMP ranks. And just to note that this PowerPoint was provided a week ago to Marnie to get it on the board packet. So there will be some expected changes coming up here in the near week or so with some promotions and the engineer's exam that we just completed. So when this slide was made, we were down 1 MMP with 7 in the pool. And then we have 10 that will be transitioning to the Fire Academy on 6/16. Firefighter rank, we have 0 vacancies, but we are 13 short in the pool of 24. Engineer, we were short of 5 positions, but as I said, we just finished the engineer's exam, and those 5 people have been promoted as of today. Well, the announcement went out today, but I think the effective date's the 17th, 16th. Captain, we have 0 vacancies, and battalion chief, we have 0 vacancies. And these are just the authorized positions again from the PAD. For the Office of the Fire Chief is 5, Support Services 81, and Administration is 45. MMPs, just as a reminder, MMPs were moved over to Support Services on the PAD, but that number for Support Services does not include MMPs. I separated those out in the previous slide. So that 81 is strictly Support Services. And this one's a quick slide, just 0 vacancies in the Office of the Fire Chief, Support Services, and Administration. This is a little bit hard to see because there's a lot of data in there, but on this slide, it shows the last 5 years of our recruitment numbers for firefighter paramedic. Just to explain a little bit about the chart. So the recruitment number, the 23-1, that represents the year and the academy. So Academy 23-1, so 2023. The number of hits, that refers to the number of clicks, if you want to say, on in our NeoGov platform that we use for our online application process. So we can see how many people actually clicked on that recruitment and reviewed it. Qualified means those are the number of applications is how many applications we received. And then the number of qualified is the number of applications that would move forward in the process after we HR reviewed them for the minimum qualifications. The number of those interviewed, and then the number that was invited to background. So I should mention that the number of qualified versus the number of interviewed. With firefighter paramedic specifically, we invite everybody to interviews that is qualified. So the difference in that number is just between the application period and the interviews. Either sometimes people back out, sometimes people don't schedule an interview. HR goes through a process of multiple days of interviews and times, and NeoGov allows us to allow the candidates to go in and self-schedule them, which gives a little more flexibility to the candidate. So if they can't come on Tuesday, it's usually 2 or 3 days of interviews, multiple time frame, 8 to 9, 10 to 11, they can go in and actually pick their time, their date. So unfortunately, some people don't go in and select interviews for whatever reason. They change their mind. We just don't know what the reasoning is, but that is the difference between the qualified and interview. We will interview every firefighter, paramedic that is qualified if they will just come to the interview. And then again, the number invited to backgrounds, there could be a difference there. The same thing, we will invite everyone that passed the interview to backgrounds. So that doesn't necessarily reflect the fact that many people maybe failed the interviews, but some people do schedule an interview and still don't show up for the interview. So, yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, thank you. While we stay on this, Melissa, I have a quick question. What's the average attrition between interviewed, which in my mind means they came, they showed up, and they were interviewed, and then invited to backgrounds? If you look at the attrition rates, they're all over the board since 23-1, including this year. There was 0% attrition between interviewed and invited to the background, but that's not been steady. So what's the cause of such significant differences year over year?
It's multiple things. Like I said, some people don't show up to the interview. Some people come to the interview and then don't show up to the background orientation. They change their mind. There's a multitude of reasons. But the doors are open. We're saying come.
So when you say interviewed in the past tense,
Yes.
that doesn't necessarily mean they were actually interviewed. It just means they were invited to be interviewed.
No, though, I apologize. Those are numbers that we actually
So they
interviewed.
did show up and were in fact interviewed.
Yes, but between the interview and the background, they'll be invited to backgrounds, but they may not show up.
Sure. I got that part.
Yeah.
Has the interview process changed significantly between 23-1 and 26-1?
No.
Okay, so that can explain potentially the wide variance
Yeah.
there. Okay.
I'm not sure. I could do a deeper dive into those numbers, and Leslie does keep very, very, very good data on all of this. So I can almost bet I can tell you every single person that interviewed and why they didn't show up, but obviously I didn't.
Because it
put
seems like that
together
would be a
tonight.
pretty important thing to know, why the significant attrition differences, because you have 0 attrition in 26, and yet you have almost 50% attrition in 24-2. That's a pretty significant difference.
I think one of our theories is that it's all about timing. If there's multiple agencies that are hiring at the same time and are interviewing, because a lot of our candidates will come in and say, I'm interviewing for this place, and this place at the same time. So there's, like I said, it's.
Yeah, and that'd be good to
hard
know
to-
so that we can change our calendar. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
I just wanted to not go past this without.
Yeah, no, please stop me if I skip over anything that you want to dive into further.
Excuse me, is there any other questions? Please continue.
And then this slide is the last 5 years of recruitments for MMP. On this slide, I really want to point out the specifically the 26-1 paramedic in progress. It more than doubled our candidate pool, so that was a successful initiative that we did. But I'm not going to talk about that right now. I'm going to let Captain Ellis talk about that more. That was something he kind of spearheaded and came to HR, and I'll let him present that information. And And then also I wanted to point out the last EMT recruitment that we did just recently. If you look at the number of hits is 7,710. That's actually 1,950 more hits than we had received the previous one, which was 2 years prior. That's more than a 25% gain of interested applicants in one recruitment. So that really stood out to us. And I believe that that's a direct effect of the recruitment efforts that we've been trying to do for the last 2 years, specifically the two gentlemen standing behind me, doing all the things that they're doing behind the scenes. I think that's a direct effect of that. And I think it shows the interest that people do want to work here at Metro Fire. And like I said, we hadn't recruited for EMT in unfortunately in 2 years. Because our list from the previous recruitment was fairly long, and the need for EMTs wasn't there. We needed paramedics. But when we did this, it was a very successful recruitment, and we had, I think that says 569. I should have brought my glasses. 569 applicants applied. So, and we tried to, again, get every single person through here, through the written test, and into the process as quickly as we could. And I might mention that recruitment itself was planned for an academy in November, but at the last minute, we had to pivot and plan for the academy in September, which we did, and we got through it, and we're off into backgrounds with those candidates. So that was a success. Any questions on that slide before I move on? Yes.
Melissa,
use your
can you-
microphone and
can you-
let me know?
Bear with me why we don't see an additional column on the right called employed.
We're gonna go through that. We have more. It's not everything's on this chart. This is just the recruitment. So yes, lots of information is waiting behind me. So
let's not steal their show.
okay. Okay, and then the last slide, the last two slides really is just the last 5 years of our day positions. These obviously are a little easier to plan ahead of time. We will typically know if somebody is going to retire, if somebody's getting another job, and they give us time to recruit for that. So, and it's only one person versus having to recruit 100 people. So these are a little easier to handle, but as you can see, we've had a lot of day positions that we've had to recruit in the last 5 years. On this slide, I would like to point out, if you look at almost to the bottom, the office technician recruitment, we had over 4,800 hits on that recruitment, which is more than double on any of the other office tech recruitments that we had in the past 5 years. I think even HR was shocked to see that many. And we had 309 applications, which was also double what we're normally used to getting in the last 5 years. And, hiring an office, we don't have any issues hiring office techs typically, but I think that speaks to the fact that our interest is growing and becoming a Metro Fire member, whether you're suppression or day staff. So that was good to see as well. Any questions on those slides? Yep. Okay. So I'm kind of done with all the boring stuff, and we're going to move on to the more exciting things with Captain Bite and Captain Ellis. So unless anybody has any questions on those first set of slides, I will let them take over. Yep. Okay.
Evening board, fire chief, Metro Fire. It's been a minute since I've been up here. It feels just as awkward as last time. If I can hover for a minute on Director Gould's question, I believe to answer your question more, and correct me if I'm wrong here, if you took the interview test, if you were invited to interview and you were invited to the backgrounds, that meant you achieved a passing score from the 3 personnel oral panel. So if there was 20 people that tested and took the interview and we took 15 to backgrounds, that means 5 people did not get passed by our members that were vetting them on the oral panel.
And we're still waiting to find out how many of the 15 actually became employed.
I don't have that number. Jimmy Ellis will have, I believe, I do agree that on those slides that would, sorry, Jimmy, Captain Ellis. It would be beneficial for us to capture that demographic on a sheet like that.
Right, because I mean, you're kind of
For
going
tracking.
from the moment they click all the way to are they working here now would be a nice slide to see.
I agree. Thank you for the input. No, you're not stealing any thunder. It's all good. Okay, last time I spoke, we talked about recruitment a little bit. I would like to lean into the phrase workforce development strategy. Hold on, I'm shooting from the hip, so I'm going to grab my notes so I don't keep doing that. First off, Tim White, a fire captain here at Metro Fire. I'm assigned to 103B. I do some other stuff on the side, recruitment being one of those duties. The difference between recruitment and workforce development, I believe, is one is going out and looking for qualified members. Two, a workforce development strategy is a plan of attack. What we're going to present to you, what Captain Ellis and I are going to present to you is some things that we can control at our level in those statements up there, strategic recruitment and career pathway development. I believe that workforce development and the strategy development belongs at the board, administration, and labor level. What we're going to try to do is provide you with as much information and data points so that you guys continue to navigate that appropriately. All right. What's the goal of all this? The goal is simple: to meet our current and future staffing needs while maintaining and improving upon our service delivery. How we accomplish that is through maintaining a qualified and healthy workforce that is capable of delivering the level of service that we've all gotten used to. At this point, I hope that throughout the rest of the remainder of this presentation, we definitely need a strategy. We have a plan of attack. We're going out and actively recruiting. We are doing the best that we can to fill the slots. I would like to take a moment to point out that with 560 members, operations makes up 72% of our workforce. 15% of that workforce staffs our MMP program. That labor group, that workforce group, also happens to represent our most significant staffing challenge. So that will drive most of our presentation that we give to you. Some of the statistics that we give is going to be in that MMP spot. There will be some differences. We do go out and recruit for firefighters, but this is hovering in the fact that we are recruiting for EMS workers. So there's some national statistics that I'd like to show you guys as far as that goes. Cool. All right. Speaking to the challenge, the EMS staffing crisis is not unique to us here at Metro Fire. Those aren't my numbers that are there in front of you. That 5 to 6 year career expectancy, that comes from an article. I'm already getting lost. From the American Ambulance Association, that 20 to 30% attrition rate due to turnover comes from a study by NAEMT. We've got some retention challenges that we'd like to present to you, but this is nothing new. But modern trends have just seemed to amplify the challenge and has made some of this much more extreme. Our ability to recruit is limited by supply and demand. We hire qualifications. We ask people to come to us with some qualifications. That ALS candidate number has been reduced. A research report done by someone called Health Force Center at UCSF stated on this is just speaking for California candidate pools. Over the past decade, the number of new EMT certifications issued annually in California has increased from approximately 7,900 to approximately 9,200. In contrast, the number of new paramedic licenses issued annually fluctuated within a narrow range from 12 to 1,400. That falls in line with FCTC, the Fire Candidacy Testing Center statistics, the state eligibility list of the SEL. 5 years ago, when I started tracking this number, hovered at about 13% candidates on that list that had an ALS license. Last time I checked with them, it was down to 11%. I was hopeful to see an uptick. You'll hear a lot of what work that we're putting in to try and move that number forward. We're definitely trying to work on the supply side of this challenge. Another one of our challenges is we need to staff ambulances. That is what it is. That's what puts us right back into this looking at EMS things. One of our neighbors, NorCal Ambulance, right across the street, they're nice enough to let us recruit at their facility. Actually, they invite me over there once a year, ask their CEO, what's going on here? Invite me over here to, for lack of a better term, poach your people, he stated. that they expect their people to stay there from 18 to 24 months. They understand that people are moving through employment there, and that is not their desired end state. And they want to support that the best they can as their employers. I think it's a good practice. I'm happy to partner with them and go over and tell them what we have over here. But they're right across the street trying to staff ambulances too. For some more specifics here at Metro Fire and our MMP program, Captain Ellis has some information for you.
Thank you all for having me. Captain Ellis, I'm in the EMS division. One of the many things I work on are internships. I'm our FTO coordinator, our paramedic school intern coordinator. So I'm here tonight more or less to speak of the challenge related to maintaining the workforce within our MMP ambulances and the efforts we're doing to try to make sure we still have employees for it. It's a dynamic process, and I think we're going to show you tonight that we're doing a pretty good job actually through strategic recruiting and planning. Our MMP ambulances require more employees than our FDMs do to staff on a regular basis. Meanwhile, in the over a 2-year time period, we more than doubled the amount of employees we needed to have in that. So this is all over the last 3.5 years, right? So while the workforce has grown significantly, the longevity within the rank has not yet. Only 4 of our current employees were here more than 5 years ago. We've hired 177 people since then. And while that shows a lot of transitional opportunity within that rank, it might be a transitional program. We've also gone from it being a temporary position 5 years ago to 13 years ago to a career opportunity now. So it doesn't necessarily account for the expansion of our total ambulance numbers and the people who are here to move to a career position, all right? But it is a dramatically different workforce than suppression when we look at retention. There are a number of factors that weigh in on the why. The career MMP program being less than 5 years old, many have every intention of staying here long-term. But this does lead us to having to look at recruitment and retention differently, as well as planning. So we've done many things like rearrange when and how we hire into academies for planning purposes, drastically increase the number of paramedic internships, increase the amount of paramedic upgrades we're doing, improved our engagement with paramedic schools, and not only started recruiting, but hiring directly from paramedic schools themselves. So we're going to talk more about that in a couple slides, but I'm going to hand it back to Tim first, unless you have any questions right now.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Jones, go ahead.
Hey, Captain Ellis, thank you for coming tonight to all of you. A quick question. In the past, there was a real bottleneck in getting the preceptor time, getting folks going for their paramedics to complete that. What's that status now, generally speaking? Yeah,
so state mandated law, you have to be a paramedic for 2 years in order to be a preceptor. So one of the dynamic challenges that we face within our MMP group, when we don't have a lot of employees who've been here for 2 years, they can't be preceptors until they've been here for 2 years. Many of them get hired as an EMT, they go through their paramedic process. During that either probation or that first 2 years, they upgrade to paramedic, and then they transition over to the fireside before they've been 2 years on. And then they go through another 1.5 years before they've even been on long enough as a paramedic to be a preceptor. So it's a challenge that we're facing, but we've been actively looking at every single employee and engaging with them early on to determine if they feel like they might be ready to be a preceptor right at 2 years. The other part of it is they have to be off probation. So even if we hire a brand new paramedic who's got 5 years on, they still have to be off probation before they can be a preceptor. So we have a number of MMP employees who are great paramedics, and the day they get off probation, they've already taken the FTO class. We're ahead of the game with them, turning them into it as many as possible. So we've significantly increased the amount of preceptors the last 3 years. Probably, I don't have the exact number now, but about 40 or 50.
Well, now, if someone goes from MMP to firefighter paramedic, does the 2 years clock start again?
No, the 2 years is it's 2 years as a paramedic. However, they still have to be off probation.
They are MMP or.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Dr. Gould.
First off, let me start tonight by saying how excited I am that this was actually a presentation tonight. I'm pretty excited to actually be in my wheelhouse and know a little bit about this stuff. But I want to start off by saying that Captain Ellis and Captain White do fantastic work compared to other agencies in the region. These two gentlemen are busting their chops to try to fill a hole that's never ending, it seems like, for all of us. And so tonight I have several different questions and ideas, but I think it's important for my colleagues that don't know that this is the single greatest bottleneck of paramedic education, and that's getting them through the 480-hour minimum ride-along program where they're being shadows to a paramedic. And that is a significant, and has been for decades, a significant bottleneck. You may have a significant number of paramedic candidates who simply can't move in that third phase of their education because of that bottleneck. And precepting is not required in the state of California, unlike in other states where precepting is required, and in other healthcare programs absolutely is required to maintain your license. So we have a couple of things going on, and I know that Captain Ellis, Captain White are just really doing everything they can to be creative. I also want to point out that there may be an opportunity for us to change some laws, because correct me if I'm wrong, Captain Ellis, but there's no science that supports the 2-year minimum for being a paramedic before you can become a preceptor. No science at all. There's no science to the 480 hours that you've got to complete, right? That's just somebody went, yeah, 480 sounds about right. And there we go, right? And it's stayed in law forever. It's not competency based. You got to do your 480. And if you happen to be competent at that point, they'll cut you loose, right? Or more if you're not. But there's an opportunity for us to really look at some of this stuff and say, this just isn't working for us anymore. If I've got to go 480 hours or longer, and there's no science that supports it, maybe we ought to look at that. And then I know your big jam is the 2-year issue, which you've just articulated. And why? Most paramedics that we're familiar with become extremely competent way quicker than that, right? They have to be minimally competent to get licensed. And then we say, well, it's not quite enough. We're going to tack another 2 years on. And then all sorts of bad things happen, right? They go to other places. I mean, it's good that that's happening to them, but it's not good for us in getting paramedics through the gauntlet, right? And so I think there's some real opportunities, and maybe Metro can be the leader in saying, where did you come up with 2 years as an active paramedic? And especially, let's just pick a medic, 41. You think you got to run medic 41 for 2 years before you can turn around and be a preceptor? Maybe 3 months, right? But anyway, thanks. And I got more that are coming, but I just wanted to say that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Please proceed.
Good job, Jerry. All right, the conversation continues. This is the EMS workforce reality. Director Gould spoke to it very eloquently. This is a bottleneck that we see. Another statistic that the state likes to point out is most of those paramedics are employed on things that aren't identified as the EMS system, i.e. fire engines and fire trucks and CHP helicopters and things like that. The competition is increasing. Everybody's going out and looking for this. Agencies like ours are trying to figure this out just like we are. Agencies that are being forced to choose whether or not they continue to stay in that realm of recruiting from the same limited talent pool or work on necessary qualifications. We have identified together that early engagement has been a key to our success, something that we can continue on, but we do need to work on investing a long-term or developing a long-term workforce development plan.
Captain White, back on
Yes,
that
sir.
slide before, could you change the word to same limited pool? Sounds awkward to say limited talent. To be a paramedic, you have to have extreme talent.
I gotcha.
Okay. So it's a wording thing, but it kind of is like slow down children at play. Thank you, sir.
Note taken. All right. You guys have heard about, again, keeping things simple. Maybe I'm on the lower talent side of it, but I need a 3-step plan. This is my 3-step plan: outreach, pathway development, and then recruitment. Recruitment, that's phase where we're looking for those qualified candidates. Our heavy focus has been on the fact that we've acknowledged that there is a talent pool or a qualifications. I'm going to get off of the talent, the qualifications challenge, and we're trying to do something about it. That pathway development is where Metro Fire specifically, I think we've had a lot of wins. Fire camp is next week. That's been a huge opportunity for us to plant the seed. That's what outreach is all about, identifying the fact that I, like many others, got lucky. Someone said to me, hey, you should be a firefighter, and they gave me a plan. That's what we do in fire camp. We have success stories right here at home. School visits and educating the educators. I have a slide to show you, so meeting with the people that present, a young person that presents themselves to an educator, i.e. a counselor or something like that, and says, I want to be a firefighter. That's who's got the most exposure. So we're trying to get them the information that they need to supply our workforce. For instance, just telling them that a paramedic is a thing and they can find it at their junior college is news to a lot of educators at that level. Our website and resources that are available, just that becoming a firefighter, something that I don't know how it happened, but if you type in becoming a firefighter into your web browser, our page comes up as the #1 hit, which is pretty cool. But so we get some traffic that way. That's just some information delivering to the folks that are looking for this kind of stuff. Community engagement and youth exposure. Speaking of core events, the district this fiscal year made it to 26 different events. That's fire engines go through operations, going out to meet with students at a career day or something like that. The recruitment team met with engaged with another 20 events, either with myself, Captain Ellis, or members of the recruitment team. Social media, I am actually surprised, maybe it's just the old guy in me, how many folks talk about finding us on social media. Any questions on that first outreach thing? I'll move on. This is an example of just information. This is a sheet that I worked with a high school counselor, one of the counselors that works with our Del Campo program, that's just about delivering information, giving a pathway to Metro Fire specifically, and a little bit about our process. Pathway development, I think, is a place where we've seen substantial success. I know that you've all heard about the Del Campo program. I won't talk about the Del Campo program today any more than just that. We just finished 15 students. A lot of them are heading off to EMT school. My crew just had our third student. Our last student wasn't a Del Campo student. This was a student from Antelope High School, Miley Phillips. Miley Phillips is a young soccer player that knows Chief Peck through playing through soccer with her daughter. She is a part of another medical pathway through Antelope High School. We got creative. The district, like they usually do, said, yeah, let's vet this, let's make it happen. We applied some language that we had in place, and she rode along with us at Engine 103. By the end of her time, she's spotting 24-foot ladders, stretching hoses, and started EMT school this week. We hope to see her later on. I don't know how the CDE committee work happened, but this year I was graced with an opportunity to work with the California Department of Education to reframe the state's CTE curriculum. The biggest success that I think that Scott Schneider and I got out of that is separating the public safety pathway into two pieces, law enforcement and fire and EMS. We'll see what comes of that. In that room, because we were leaning into EMS so much, I got invited to another conversation about medical pathways, and that conversation is continuing. I'm doing what I can to learn over there. Military pipeline partnerships, there's some opportunity to invest in the future here through things like SkillBridge. I know that I've spoken to the fire chief about SkillBridge in the past, and this is a conversation that we can continue later on as we want to invest in more programs moving forward. Captain Ellis and I are both working on this, trying to make it happen. I should have brought water up here. All right, recruitment. This is another shared topic that we're going to work on here. Thank you. I'm good. No, I'm good. Wages and benefits and working conditions. Absolutely recruit. Wages and benefits recruit. Working conditions keep people at an agency. These two studies up here, but one by EMS One that leans into the EMS side of the house, and Fire Rescue One. I encourage you to Google these and look at these. There's some good information on these. An interesting statistic from the EMS One survey was that 76% of respondents listed burnout as a critical issue in EMS, facing EMS today. There was a significant portion that, there's all kinds of gauges that they use in that one, but that was a standout, especially with the topic of conversation about some challenges that we have at Metro Fire. The fire survey, I'm going to skip talking about that today. That was because that's more on the fire side of the shop. I would like to point out that in this, the steps that we have taken and the steps that we continue to take are noticed. Not only the people that are looking for work within agencies like ours, but other agencies are looking at what we're doing. They are trying to replicate our successes, and they are trying to minimize any failures that we come up against. There's a significant portion of the labor market, our competition, that is following our lead. I'm going to skip the rest of this here and let Captain Ellis again talk about some of the stuff in-house that he's working on, with paramedic programs being our highest priority in recruitment.
All right, yeah. So interactions with our paramedic schools has been a pivotal strategy for us. Not just, it's been one of the keys to our successes. We're tracking, engaging in every way possible. Anywhere we can, any type of ability, anything that we can do, right? For example, 3 years ago, we realized there was an obvious area of improvement we could do, which would be a dramatically increase in the number of internships we're providing. At the time, we were only providing about 6 internships at any given time in an agency with 20 ambulances. You know, you can do the math, and we have a lot of opportunity to expand that. But the big question was, how can we take internships and turn them into employees? Right? We have a real opportunity to recruit through that. So working with Captain White, we realized that we're looking at paramedic schools like CalJack, where we're going to train our own employees, right? How do we get more employees into the stations just to get opened up to us? And so we started reaching out to every paramedic school we could. We went from having 5 affiliation agreements to 11 affiliation agreements in a short time period. And many of these schools are well outside our region. Working with him on some strategic opportunities to get recruiting in areas that we haven't been recruiting well in before. We had affiliation agreements created in places like UCLA, South Bay, Los Positas, things like that, with a lot of opportunity to also get suppression members in the door. So to compare from 2016 to, and I'm going to give you a lot of different statistics. So I'm going to be looking down here because I can't remember all of these off the top of my head. From 2016 to mid 2023, we provided a total of 102 internships, or about 12 a year. From mid 2023 until now, we've provided 110 internships, and we have 12 more planned. So more than triple the amount of internships in that time period. This puts a huge burden across the board, right, on our engines, on our operations division. We have to plan strategically with when we're going to have academies coming out, where we have ambulance time available for people to go in the stations. However, from a recruitment standpoint, it's invaluable. It gives us a 2 to 3 month job interview opportunity. And it goes both ways, right? The student coming in has a chance to learn our culture and ingrain with us. And many of these people are coming back to us through internships as employees. And I'll give you some statistics on that. So referring back to some of the earlier slides, if you flip back to the one regarding MMP specific recruitment. When we had a 2023 EMT recruitment, we had hired off of that. And later on, when talking to HR, we asked the question, how many of them are in paramedic process? We're not getting a whole lot of applicants. You can see how many paramedic applicants are in there. So they asked the question, and we had 17 people in paramedic school. So through communicating with all 17 of those people, we realized we could hire 3 additional paramedics from that. And ultimately, we got a total of 13 additional paramedics out of that EMT recruitment. That opened the idea to the next recruitment. How many people in the EMT process in 2024 were in paramedic process? It turned out 31 were. We got an additional 16 employees that are paramedics out of that into the academy. So this opened up the idea of how can we turn more EMTs into paramedics through internships, through strategic recruiting. And in communicating with all the paramedic schools, as we're bringing in these paramedic students, how can we support them as well? We learned of a document that most paramedic schools use called a letter of good standing. It's a similar thing where they can validate that somebody's within their paramedic school. So I asked them all, how can you provide this on demand if somebody needed this to get a job in a transporting 911 agency while they're still in paramedic school? And it was a resounding yes. Not only a yes, but they asked us to send an example of what we're looking for so they could rewrite their own document to meet the needs of a recruitment. So working with Melissa and Chief Farika and everybody in the HR division, we talked about, can we do strategic paramedic in progress recruitment? We've already been hiring them this way, putting them into internships. And in a lot of those, we were hiring people it was all timing, right? A lot of what we're talking about is timing. They had to be at a point in their paramedic process where they couldn't delay any longer, right? And so they would stop, and then we would give them their internship on the back end. And so we were able to put together a paramedic in progress recruitment, specifically at the end of 2025. And in that time period, we had a paramedic recruitment as well. We got 24 applicants for paramedic and 27 for paramedic in progress. So more than doubling what we had. We ended up getting a total of 51 applicants for MMP, which if you go back and look at the recruitment for firefighter paramedics at the time, it's almost the same amount of employee opportunity there. Now, ultimately, we netted 5 people from this, 2 paramedics and 3 paramedics in progress. As to why, there's a lot of reasons why. Some were unsuccessful in backgrounds. Many had other opportunities come up with other agencies, and they just withdrew from the process. But it does speak to the success of bringing paramedics in. When this most recent EMT recruitment, we asked the question again, and we have 34. So each time it's getting more and more EMTs in paramedic progress. So to speak specifically to how many EMTs in paramedic progress that we've hired or that we've brought into backgrounds in the last 4 recruitments is 109. And in the last 11 paramedic recruitments in that same time period, we had 109. So it doubled our opportunity. Now, we didn't net all those employees, but it was essentially doubling the potential for us to hire paramedics. So let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. Okay, so as for the 68 paramedics that we've actually hired since 2023, July, only 32 have come from the paramedic recruitment themselves. Of the 47 external internships that we provided in the last 3 years, 33 of those led to a potential employee through application and a background process. In fact, 3 of them are starting in the fire academy next week, and they never worked for us as an MMP. So many of these interns are coming back to us. We've had this happen before where they're coming back and still applying here because they're getting in the door and they're seeing how great Metro Fire actually is. Of the 14 interns who did not apply for us, 8 are known to have taken other opportunities before ours became available. So again, timing. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Captain White real quick. Unless you have any questions.
Yeah, I have just a quick question, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Captain Mellis, what does affiliated contract mean?
Oh, affiliation agreement, yeah.
Yeah, agreement.
So for us to provide an internship to a paramedic school student, we have to have a legal affiliation agreement. So it's a document that we create between the school and the agency, and it goes through our legal division and it goes through theirs, making sure that insurance, indemnification, and everything else is covered in that. So it does take a lot of work on the back end to create those, but we have a standardized document that was created about 3.5 to 4 years ago, and Captain Hogan was in here working with Chief Rudnicki that we've used going forward. That was with General Counsel, and we have essentially we're turning all of our older ones into something that works off of what General Counsel has provided for us. Yeah.
Bob.
Head Director Gould.
Gay, just so you know, those agreements are required for accreditation in the state of California. You don't have an option. You've got to have all of those for both clinical and field internships. Those agreements have to be in place in order for that school to be accredited. So the driving force is accreditation. It's always nice to have those documents between agencies, but reality is it's coming and being driven by accreditation. Same thing with nursing and other healthcare programs. They have to have the same kind of thing.
Okay, so how come we don't have affiliated agreements with a whole bunch of folks?
Well, I think 11 is pretty awesome, frankly, Gay. I mean, that's a pretty wide spread amongst the region.
Okay.
So I can answer that too. It's a great question because they all want us to provide internships. We only have so much opportunity here. In fact, some of the 11 we've let go for different reasons, right? We don't currently have one with NCTI, partially, even though it's a local regional one, it's partially because of the way our structure with MMP ambulances and FDMs are with so many FDMs, and, we have a hard time providing 100% ambulance internship right now within the structure of Metro Fire and our paramedics. And some agencies, they require that. And so we can't really give that, and the effort and the time that goes into creating one of these has to be worth it, right? Another one that we let go, we were having a hard time finding placement for that many students. While we've increased this, triple, I'm sure Director Gould can tell you right now, he would love us to give even more internships at American River College. And we're having a hard time even meeting the demand of all the local ones. So while we have grown it up to as many as 11, we currently have, I think, 9. It's hard to meet the demand. There's always another paramedic student.
Thank you, Captain Ellis. And Dr. Gould, I can touch base with you offline. Thank you. Good info. Thank you.
All right. I feel like I'm burning up a lot of you guys this time, so I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit. The second place where we try and go look for people's fire technology classes. I do like the introductory classes because people are just starting their pursuit to become firefighters. It's a time for us to give information about our organization and lead them in the direction that we'd like them to go to pursue their qualifications. EMT training programs, fire academies. At fire academies, I can tell you that most of the legwork there is convincing people to go to paramedic school to come back and see us. All right. Who is the recruitment team? The entire district is the recruitment team. It's no secret that the better our members or membership feels about their employment, the better recruiters they are. People that meet either one of us or a recruiter, especially if they're at a paramedic school, I'm not the first person in a Metro Fire uniform that they've met before, and they've probably heard different stories. So the entire district is our recruiter, and we do utilize them for everything, all the way down to our reserves. I'd want to thank Mark, who's sitting in the back with the reserve program. If there's anything that you absolutely need to get filled, the reserves are there every time. Thank you, sir. The recruitment team cadre, I'm calling it, there's a handful of people that have come to me at various times with an idea, and I say, that's a great idea. When do you want to go to work? That has developed a team with that. The intent of that is a little bit of a division of labor. Most folks have a special interest, whether it's recruiting for women in the fire service or outreach towards veterans or anything along those lines. That's how that team is getting built. And that team hopefully will lead to some succession planning and sustainability, as mentioned at the end. The mentor program has been actually very successful. I'll just give you some numbers. Captain Kyle Fritz manages that program. I don't, if you guys are unaware of that program, it's something that's on our website. Someone can fill out from our recruitment form. It's the broad end of the funnel, as I call it. When we go out to places and we give them this information, it's a way for one of those people to get in contact with either one of 77 suppression members or 16 MMP members. Since 2023, we've had almost 1,500 contacts through that program. We are working on some tracking to try and show some numbers on what that results in. What that team really does try to embrace, although it's very well supported by the district and we're trying to recruit for the district, we're trying to give people information. The more successful candidates are out there at other organizations, the more successful we're going to be at staffing our equipment as well. The candidate mentoring, coaching, and internships that happen primarily with Captain Ellis. Both Captain Ellis and I make ourselves very, very much available to candidates to try and help them to navigate the process. I think that the customer service from HR through their different point of contacts is second to none when it comes to our hiring processes. All right. I said I was going to go faster. This is just an image of what mission overlap is in recruitment, how different areas of the organization are kind of overlapping and getting the information out to potential candidates. Those numbers right there, this again, there's a lot of information from Captain Ellis specific to the MMP program. Those numbers, the top numbers for MMP or for firefighter salary, those are actual regular pay, inclusive of for paramedic, their FLSA, their holiday, their EMT, and their paramedic incentive. That entry level is that 116. The 178 is max incentives, 25 years, all 12% longevity pay. The same is represented in the salary schedule below. That is in full pay for a paramedic, including their EMT and paramedic pay and their in base overtime rates, and then up to again, 25 years on the job, max longevity, max education. Captain Ellis?
Yeah.
It's yours.
I will try to keep this super quick. I know you probably done with me too. So to speak to the retention challenge within the M&P rank a little bit, like I said, we went from 5 ambulances to 11 in a 2-year time period. That means we went from 40 members to 86. In that same time period, we've realized that we needed more paramedics than we ever anticipated and planned for in order to maintain ALS coverage. Like I said, we hired 177 people since 2021. 23 of those were unsuccessful during the initial training. We've upgraded 36 of those people to paramedic in that time period. Since 2023, of the 38 employees, 7 paramedics and 1 EMT are still here in the paramedic rank. The rest of them have, since 2023, at the beginning of 2023, we had 38 employees. Of those 38 employees, 8 are still here, 1 EMT and 7 paramedics within the M&P rank. The rest have either transitioned to fire or left for other agencies. So we've had 43 M&P resignations since 2021. I know my years aren't all lining up. This is the data I have, but 32% of those told us they took suppression jobs elsewhere. It speaks to a little bit of the retention challenge. We don't have a retention problem. It's too hard to identify it as that because we've expanded it so much, and we went from this feeder program to suppression to career pathway, and we're bringing a lot of people in who are still here in the early ages of that. But we do know that only 21% of our current workforce has been here for more than 2 years within the M&P rank. So the last stat from our last 4 fire academies that have resulted in 96 recruits, 35 of those came from the M&P ranks. Of those 35, 16 came from our paramedic upgrade process. So we now have to plan for transitioning at least 10 M&Ps per fire academy. These are all different factors that go into the planning and the retention and recruitment strategies that we have in place. Do you have any questions on any of that before I hand it back to Tim finally? Okay.
Okay, in the beginning of this, I spoke to workforce development strategy. These are all just common sense steps that we can take. Some we're already taking very well, and some that we can improve upon. I'll leave this in your guys' board packet instead of, you guys have it right there in front of you. The intentionally responding to the labor shortage is, we've spoken to some of the steps that we've taken that, again, is within our control. Outside of that, it's like I said, it's incumbent upon the district to come up with a workforce development plan that we're happy to be a part of as subject matter experts. The Metro Way, I put this in here. This is one of the final slides in any recruitment presentation that I do. I do love this line. It's one of the opening statements in the Metro Way. And it recruits on a very personal level. Being able to speak to a candidate in ways that demonstrate and show that we put our money where our mouth is and how we take care of people. Everything from the protections that have been put in place and the fact that we'll continue to take care of you whether or not you can do the job until we can get you whole. The investment that we put into the health and wellness division, again, just about taking care of people. It does recruit, and I appreciate that from the board, the fire chief, and labor. That's the end of our presentation. Unless you have any questions for us. Thank you. We took all of your time.
Do we have any questions? Yes, Director. Excuse me. Director.
Thank you for the presentation, guys, and the information. I think it's important for all of us to understand what we heard tonight is just a very microcosm of a much larger issue, not just in the state of California, but across the country, where organizations are having to close their doors because they can't provide ALS level services. So I would call my colleagues out to say, when we do 80 to 90% EMS in this community, we've got to start looking at recruitment with an increased lens, because the intensity is just going to get worse as all of our competitors are looking for the same human beings. I want to end tonight with a really quick example. I have a paramedic student who just finished his field internship, and before he could start the application process for different agencies like ours, which is, of course, my bias to him, he was recruited by a nursing school, given a full ride nursing scholarship to go and become a nurse in 18 months and triple his salary. So I want to just put it in perspective. We're not just arguing to have them come in our doors and ride our ambulances and fire trucks. We're looking at healthcare professionals who have a ladder up once they come through our doors and get significant patient experience. But folks, we're at a crossroads right now for Metro Fire. We are an EMS agency. Whether you like it or not, that's what we do a majority of the time. And so I'm really asking that we support it like it's real. When 80% of our business is this, we've got to put the resources and the time and the money where it's going to pay off for us in the best way possible. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Melissa, for your work as well. I know directly that these guys are working their butts off to get as many people in the door at Metro. And they're just competing sometimes against an uphill battle that I don't know how we'll win it, but we will. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Welcome. Any other questions? Thank you, captains. Yes, Director Rice.
Just in looking at this and then going back to the last meeting and the MMP presentation and then the handout, which was a number of different letters going over not necessarily working conditions, but certainly how the job is impacting people. I think Director Gould, I 100% agree. And you know from years back that I would not have been that person to say this, but when I look at the recruitment and retention metrics, and a firefighter paramedics makes 116 to 178 a year, and we have made the MMP professional, or we're going along that way, but an MMP paramedic makes $72,000 to $108,000 a year. That's not a living wage. I think we're at a crossroads. And I'm going to say it every time I get an opportunity. This MMP program needs to transition to a full-blown EMS division with a professional track, not just medics riding the medic, but the whole 9 yards. We should be running 2 medics on every unit. And I know that, Chief, it's easy to say and very hard to do. We're at a spot we need to reconsider this whole thing. We're not paying a professional wage to these men and women, and we're asking a lot of them. And so I'm gonna harp on this every chance I get. And this is one that a lot of people aren't going to want to hear, but based on what I heard from personnel, and that's what I have to base it on, we ought to zero out the overtime in this rank and use all of that money to hire personnel. Overtime is just staffing. That's what it is. It's either permanent or it's out there in the ether land. If we spend how many millions a year on overtime, Chief?
I think we're at 35 million.
Oh, maybe the day has come that we need to convert half of that into personnel and start building our divisions up and building this fire department up. And I'll end on this. I never cared for the term customer. I'm a customer when I go to Raley's. I'm a customer, when I buy retail goods and services. The men and women here serve a civilian population, and we pay taxes. And when I have to call 911, I absolutely expect the fire department to show up and service my needs. And there's so much more than just the workload. It's brownouts. They're not acceptable. There's just a lot to do here. And we can't keep putting a Band-Aid on what we call the MMP program. I think we're at a point that we owe those men and women, if you want to invest and be a professional paramedic with this organization, with a career pathway to go, it has to have reflective wages and it has to be a sustainable position. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Nothing. Thank you, captains. As President Costa always asks, is there anything the board can do for you? Do you need anything from us? Okay, thank you.
Go, Tim. No, thanks for the consideration. Thanks for the offer. The one thing that I would ask, I know I've said this a handful of times one-on-one, is that to start changing our mindset from recruitment to workforce development strategy, and then leaning into that as a recruitment being a part of it. But
thank you.
That's it.
Melissa, are you coming back to the podium? Are you?
I can, yes, I'm here.
Well, you touched on something and maybe it went over my head, but you said you had some follow-up with questions that the board had for you.
I was told that there was just interest from the board on the paramedic and process recruitment that we did that Captain Ellis talked about. So I wanted to kind of explain that in this presentation of what that was, because it was the first time we had ever done it, and it ended up, I thought, being successful. I mean, one person to me is successful, so one
Right.
hire.
And in light of a couple of board meetings ago and we had the survey and everything else come about, I just want to make sure that the board understands this has been going on for a long time. It wasn't a knee-jerk reaction to that survey or the comments we heard. I want to make sure it very clear that this has been going on for a long, long time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Bob. Melissa, can I just, again, I'm going to brag a little bit for you guys, on you guys, because the Paramedic in Progress idea was brilliant. Because that's the moment that they all get sharked and go away to places that may be pretty and shiny and all that stuff. But your decision to do that Paramedic in Progress piece really helps the student who many of the students we encounter coming into paramedicine don't have a background. They don't have an uncle or an aunt that was a firefighter, none of that. They're fresh into this industry and they don't have that mentor. And the moment that Metro Fire writes a letter to say, we believe in you, we're going to support you, you cannot imagine what that does to their attitude because they got no one else. Many of them do, and that's great. But a lot of young people who want to come to work here don't have anything like that. And the moment that they're selected for that Paramedic in Progress piece, it really has an impact. And I think you'll find that if we could drill down in the data and analyze it, you would find significant improvements. Many decades ago, we used to do something called the intern. Chief Martinez and Brian Rice and some other folks supported that process. And those young people knew from day one in paramedic school that they had somebody that had their back all the way along in 1,800 hours of education. And it was pretty magical. And now we're doing something very similar with Paramedic in Progress. So kudos to all of you for thinking of that. I think it's one of the best things that come along. Nobody else is doing it. So we got to kind of keep it secret. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. And one more item that I'm kind of fuzzy on here. So you said that the pad is at 264 now?
I'd have to look. Forgot what was on there for suppression.
Yes.
Let's see.
Well, the reason I ask that, no matter what the number is,
Yeah.
I remember or vaguely remember that this board deauthorized padded positions. When did we reauthorize those positions?
I think you'd have to be a little more specific, and I would probably have to have the PAD in front of me to.
Well, in 2022, 23, we were at 260. And before this new, with the prelim coming up and everything else, it seems that it was 240. And now I'm seeing 264 again.
I
Not
could
possible.
definitely get that information for you, but we went back and did all that history and looked at it, and I wouldn't be able to explain it right
Okay,
here, right
yeah.
now, but I can get that for you.
At some point, let's talk offline.
Yeah,
I'd
absolutely.
like to understand that a little better. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yes. And I'd like to personally thank Captain Ellis and Captain White, because it's not every day you call someone and say, hey, you want to do a board presentation with me? And they go, sure. So I was really, really thankful that they were able to get up here and show the board all the things that they've been working on, because I know how hard they work, and they are consistently in HR with new ideas, and we roundtable it and figure out what we can do, what we can't do, how could we do it differently. And so I appreciate every day working with them. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, especially with Tim being so quiet. All right. We're going to move on to action items. Adopt resolution Measure O, Citizens Academy Oversight Committee. And here to give us all the bells and whistles is Director of Government Affairs, Kyle McDonald.
Good morning, everybody, or good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Directors, Chief House. I'm Kyle McDonald, Director of Government Affairs in our Planning and Development Division, here to talk to you briefly about the Measure O Independent Citizens Oversight Committee. Tonight's action item that's before you is the appointment of 9 members plus 3 alternates. And this is an important step forward in our continuation of transparency and accountability surrounding Measure O. I do want to give a brief bit of background. Tonight's appointments follow a robust recruitment effort through sustained community outreach, including social media, emails, outreach at meetings and events, working with community partners to disseminate our call for applications through their networks as well, and to help ensure as broad of a pool of candidates as possible. This board actually extended the application period from 60 days to 90 days. As a result of that, I'm pleased to say that we received 36 total applications from 8 of our 9 divisions, representing a diverse pool of applicants, all with various backgrounds. While diverse, each applicant shared one commonality, and this was a desire to serve our district and our community. We're truly grateful for all those who took the time to apply. The review and selection of these 12 individuals follows deliberation from the Measure O Independent Citizens Oversight Committee Ad Hoc Committee. It's a mouthful. That's Director Sailors, Director Stark, and Director Jones who have put forward these names. Tonight, you're asked to adopt this resolution to appoint the Measure O Independent Citizens Oversight Committee and authorize the clerk of the board to serve as the clerk of the ICOC. Happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? No questions. So looking for a motion and a second on this.
Sure, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Can we call the roll, please?
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Clark, Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Next, we have adopt resolution capital improvement plan for the years 26-27 through 30-31. Erin Castleberry.
Good evening. Thank you, board, for having me up here tonight. I'm here to present our new capital improvement plan for fiscal year 26-27 through fiscal year 30-31. You guys have seen this presentation for the past 5 years. This is our 5th CIP. So we're at the end of our first 5-year cycle of CIP. So we'll move through it pretty quick.
Psych.
Technical.
Advanced.
Check the batteries.
Next slide, please.
Uh-oh.
Technical difficulty.
Maybe not so quick.
I'll make it easy for you. Just say yes. Just to prove it.
Yeah, that was quick. That was quick. Yeah.
Try it. There we go. You guys have seen this slide several times, so we're going to pass right through it, but the CIP is an important part of our whole strategic execution here. So the development, as you know, starts with division managers. They submit the projects. That goes through a validation and ranking process. This year, we actually, while the CIP policy has the ranking process and deliberation process on the projects, the CIP committee is made up of members of the finance division, procurement, planning and development. We actually broadened that circle this year. The CIP included all division managers who had submitted projects so that they could see and talk about their project in the context of all the other projects, as well as members of 522, Captain Oberlander and Captain Gardner. They participated in that meeting as well. So it was a great meeting and we were able to rank the projects accordingly. As you know, we go through this process that starts early in February, continues through. The Finance and Audit Committee got this presentation 2 weeks ago, and we are now here for your approval. Our 5-year projection shows a total need of $351.6 million. You can see here the breakdown, mostly related to new construction and expansion, and apparatus and equipment projects make up the majority of that need. A total of 82 projects were submitted for fiscal year 26-27 implementation, totaling $195.8 million. Of those, 47 were new projects, and 35 of those are projects that are carrying over. Those are projects approved in a previous fiscal year that are not complete yet. They're moving forward through the process. Of the 82 projects, there are 45 recommended for funding in fiscal year 26-27. The requested appropriation for that is $157.4 million, and that has been folded into the preliminary budget that you'll see tonight. Most of those are carryover projects. If you're wondering why so many carryover projects, if you remember last year when we brought this to you with our Measure O funding, we front-loaded about 3 years worth of apparatus and equipment projects so that we could get them ordered in consideration of the long lead times. So that is why we have so many carryover projects, as well as 4 new construction projects, which of course, as you know, are multi-year endeavors. So that is the breakdown here. And that's also why you'll see that the new project amount is less than in prior years. It's because we kind of front-loaded it last year for a 3-year bond pull. 35 carryover projects totaling $153.9 million. You can see a lot of them here. New projects being proposed are 10 for funding this year, totaling $3.5 million. A lot of these are projects that we fund every year, like turnout replacement and recruit PPE. We have some additional facility improvement projects with regard to replacing old flooring with some non-porous flooring to help with some health and safety efforts in the stations. And then, of course, some additional apparatus and equipment projects that are needed. So total of 45 funded projects. You can see here the split across the funding sources. The majority, of course, coming from Measure O, $146.8 million. A little from the general fund. We often get questions about why is there general fund, a little bit of general fund, and that's just because things don't qualify as a capital thing, like turnouts are not a capital equipment, so those are paid out of the 8 fund, for example. Development Impact Fee Fund, that's for Station 67. And then a little bit still in the Special Projects Fund for the finishing out of the Zinfandel project. That still leaves us with an unfunded need of $34.8 million for next year. 37 projects were not funded, were not selected for funding. So those needs will carry on to next year. I imagine they'll be proposed again in next year's CIP. We always try to find ways to fund these projects through alternative sources, whether that's through grants. So we will be looking at that to pursue, but that's the summary on that. So next steps, you will hopefully approve this tonight. As is generally our practice, we will bring this back at final budget time to give us a chance and all of the managers a chance to review the projects in light of fiscal year end, make any final adjustments on costs for projects that were completed, that weren't anticipated to be completed, or vice versa. We'll bring those updates to you in September alongside final budget. And then we typically also do a mid-year adjustment, again, just to account for actual costs. And I will take any questions you have.
Do we have any questions? Seeing there are no questions, looking for a first and second. motion to adopt resolution capital improvement plan for years 26, 27 through 30, 31.
So moved.
I'll second.
I'm a first and a second. Can you call the roll, please?
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next up, adopt resolutions for years 26, 27 preliminary budget. CFO Dave O'Toole.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, directors, Fire Chief House, colleagues, members of the public. Dave O'Toole, the Chief Financial Officer. Tonight, I'll be presenting the 26-27 preliminary budget. For this presentation, the main point of comparison is the last adopted budget, which was mid-year of this year, 25-26. We'll start by looking at the budget as a whole, and then we'll drill down into general fund revenues, expenditures. We'll take a little bit of look at capital and a couple of five-year forecasts. So jumping right in, this is the top line fiscal summary slide, basically answering the common questions. How big is the district's budget and how much reserve do we have? The gray rows at the top are all funds and the blue sections are general fund. So starting at the top, the all fund revenues were 354.2 million. You can see that for preliminary in 25-26, it was 354.2. And then at mid-year, it increased to 360.8 million. And then prelim, what we're proposing, revenues from all funds, 364.6 million, an increase of 3.7 million over the mid-year. So that's how you read those rows. Expenditures, 459 million last prelim a year ago. At mid-year is 464.9, and now we're proposing 524.3. The change in fund balance and negative 159 there, that indicates that we're pulling more out of funds to pay for things. So that sum is largely Measure O. Shifting down into the general fund section, reading that kind of the same way. The revenues last year were 335.8 million, increased to 341.9 million, and then 347.6 million is what's proposed tonight, a difference of 5.7 million. Overall, you can see under the proposed general fund reserve transfer line, we are proposing to increase, to transfer from the reserve 7.2 million. That's an increase of 2.3 million over last year, or 25-26, I should say. Let's see, looking down at the last two rows, you can see what's happened to general fund reserve. It was 9.8% a year ago, rose to 12% at mid-year. And now what we're projecting is 9.7% at the end of 26-27 on June 30. The chart at the right is simply a visual display of the revenues and expenditure trends. You notice that expenditures, the orange line, is expected to rise and exceed revenues, the blue line in 25-26 and 26-27. Before leaving this slide, it's important to have some, maybe helpful to have some context that this is a mid-year, this is a structural deficit issue that you're seeing here. When it's multi-year, that's a structural problem. We'll get into kind of the causes in a moment and the projection in a few slides. But I just want to observe that we're also, there's a larger context around statewide with that too. There's several other cities, some close to home, that are also facing multi-year structural deficits. This slide is the overview of all major funds. So there's eight funds shown here. General fund we just looked at, the general fund column there. Capital Facilities Fund, the balance is unchanged. There's a $4 million transfer to the from the general fund to the Capital Facilities Fund that pays for projects. Leased Properties Fund is the balance is dropping by about 15%. It's mainly a loss of rental income in this building. Grants Fund includes SAFER funding. We expect to spend all of Grants Fund, development impact fees. Similarly, we spend the $3 million in income. Measure O Debt Service Fund, annual payments of bondholders will be 9.9 million. Measure O Building Fund, just 400,000 in revenues. We anticipate spending about 146 million out of that fund this 26-27. And then the Special Projects Fund, there's a little balance of about 200,000. Anticipate spending that. Important thing to notice is there's no negatives on the bottom lines. We're not overspending any funds. We're depleting some funds as intended, but there's balances in all the other funds. Moving on to general fund, just some highlights of the general fund revenue side. Again, total revenue of $347.6 million. That's about a $1.7 million increase over 25-26. Property taxes, $223.3 million, which is an $8.4 million increase over 25-26. It's our 14th consecutive year of property tax growth and 16th consecutive year of total revenue growth. So basically since the Great Recession. Charges for services estimated to be $108.2 million, which is a $1 million decrease over last year. Some of the highlights shown there, EMS fees are up by $1.3 million, mainly related to the CPI adjustment and the EMS fee adjustments we made recently. Public provider ground emergency medical transport, PPG-EMT, hearing more about, is $25.1 million. That's a $2 million increase in revenue there, mainly due to fewer eligible transports projected. VRP has a similar loss, about $2 million. Again, fewer eligible transports in that program. CRD is up $280,000, mainly the CPI adjustment in that fee area. And then contract services revenue is up $1.8 million. Moving from general fund revenues to expenditures, $350.8 million is your total general fund expenditures, up 1.7% as well. The labor budget, which includes both compensation and benefits, reaches $280.6 million. That's a 1.8% increase over the prior year. The labor budget does fund 4 academies, 2 MMP, 2 firefighters. No new positions or wage increases are assumed in this budget. Labor costs are estimated to be 80.7% of general funds. So it's up from 80.2 at midyear. And then on the service and supply side, $65.4 million. I have a slide coming up on that. And jumping further down into the expenditures, general fund expenditures, looking at labor. Labor expense has 2 parts, compensation and benefits. Compensation includes wages and incentives such as paramedic, education, and longevity, and overtime, such as constant staffing, out-of-class pay, and sick leave and buybacks. Sick leave buybacks. Benefits includes PERS and PERS payments, personal medical expenses, vision, dental, that kind of thing. Total compensation, $155.5 million, up 0.6% more than the prior year. Wages are at $91.6 million, 6.4% increase. Constant staffing, or suppression staff overtime is $3.9 million lower. It's a 12.8% decrease, mainly attributable to the pools that have been established. And let's see, incentive pays for EMT, paramedic, hazmat, and longevity are up 4.5%. Employee behavioral wellness incentive continues with a cost of $3.1 million. Total benefits, $125.1 million, which is up $4 million. Includes increased pension contributions of $3.7 million, 6% increase. Increased post-employment health benefit contributions of $1.9 million, about a 63% increase. Medical costs are up 8.2%, and workers' comp costs are down $1 million, 15.9%. Looking at the service and supplies budget, I mentioned it was $65.4 million. Just some highlights on this slide here. The building services costs, $380,000 decrease, mainly because of some things we're able to do at Measure O. $315,000 increase in safety clothing and supplies, somewhat related to the 4 academies we mentioned. $270,000 increase in election services coming in November. $230,000 increase in district's liability and property insurance programs, and a $1 million reduction in matching payments for the VRP and PPG-EMT programs. If you recall, those programs, we put money up to pull the money down. When we're receiving less, we have to contribute a little less there, so an offset. The capital outlay summary, again, we're not going to go into it. We just heard the CIP presentation, so just kind of a highlight for what's happening budget-wide. Total capital outlay spending is $155.3 million, and including that 146.8 committed from Measure O Building Fund. The major capital outlay projects funded using Measure O shown on this slide is like several stations totaling $77 million, apparatus $8.8 million for 25 ambulances, 15 Type 1 engines for $15.8 million, and 8 Type 3s for $1.3. We also have some rehabilitation work shown there, $1.3 million. for 1.3 million. Yeah, the 8 Type 3 engines were 4.6 million. And then at the bottom there, the other capital outlay projects funded with other funds. We've got some remaining development impact fees, contributions for Fire Station 67 is 7.7 million. And then capital facilities fund contributions for technology rescue and safety equipment of just about 54,000, excuse me. Don't get carried away with that.
That's
Yes.
more than.
Got to reel that in. Okay, so now moving into the future. So this is the long-term forecast, 26, 27 through 2030, 31. So this is a 5-year forecast. First, I'd like to go over just some of the assumptions shown here. We use the latest county property tax data that they provide to us. We also use the forecast information provided by a property tax consultant. The forecast incorporates current wage costs adjusted annually to reflect natural growth, step increases and that kind of thing that happen year to year, regardless of any adjustments to compensation. That's been about 1.7% increase, so we assume that continues. No compensation or staffing increases are assumed. The most current PPGMT and VRP revenues are used with approximately 3% annual growth factored in over the future years. There's no, speaking of PPMG, there's no assumption of an add-on rate approval, which would add about $6 million a year. It's not in this forecast. Pension costs are assumed to increase at the rate that CalPERS projects for us. CPI is at 3%, which latest information suggests it's a little low, anticipating that it kind of levels out, and 3% over 5 years, an average 5 years is about right. Not shown here, and not one of my assumptions, service and supplies projected growth year over year is about 2.8% in the forecast. That spending level will generally support current service and supplies spending, but would hinder the district from making any major investments in general fund capital projects, strategic planning initiatives, and new health, wellness, and safety initiatives, and that kind of thing. I'm also going to show you, and at the bottom of the slide is I'm going to show you a second forecast, this alternative forecast. As shown there, it's for 2 stations, full staffing of 58 positions for Station 67 and the new grant line 220. And then we'll also include the lapse of SAFER funding, and it will be offset by forecasted revenues for new development property tax areas. So they're not currently on the books, but we expect other areas to be built out. And then I'm reflecting that in this forecast, in that second forecast. Okay. First things first, this is the forecast without any of that new station, new revenue piece going. This is the normal, typical 5-year forecast that you get using the assumptions just shown. As you can see, the amount of general fund reserves, the red column is relatively steady across these years, around low 30s. At the same time, the district expenditures are growing faster. So you can see the green line is on a downward trajectory. That's your reserves ratio. So from 9.7% in 26-27 down to 7.7% 4 years later. Some things to keep in mind with this. This projection is primarily influenced by significant changes in property tax and labor costs. Those are the two biggest drivers for this. The 5-year forecast shows the general fund reserve borrowing continuing, albeit intermittently and at a lower level. And after 26-27, the forecast includes no general fund borrowing next year in 27-28, 750,000 in general fund borrowing in 28-29, 1.4 million in 29-30, and 1.8 million in 20-30-31. So the amount of borrowing is not as high as what's being projected for 26-27. It's going to projected to come down if everything else in the forecast holds. But in reality, the borrowing from general funds is part of the issue. Really, the longer term objective continues to be to build up general fund reserves towards the 50% target. This slide is what I mentioned with adding the 2 new stations, reflecting the loss of the SAFER grant in 28-29 and including revenues from new growth areas. So just what does it look like? This is a projection. The chart shows general fund reserves declines from 34.3 million next year, that 9.7%, down to 3.4%. Let's see how the green line declines. A couple of things to note right off the bat from this. This forecast does include continued growth in property tax revenue, so there's no recession projection or anything like that. It's and there's no loss of federal subvention in here too. It's just assuming those parts stay the same. But the board does have some discretion to influence the current projected structural deficit. And as it's shown here, some examples would be, when these stations actually open up or how they get staffed. There's ways to, the board will have discretion on how that occurs, of course. How much the new district spending commitments are limited in general, that is another valve for you to consider, and seeking out new revenue sources such as a new SAFER grant. There's also that wide open question about the PPGMT money that may be coming later this calendar year. And let's see, however, if by mid-year 2026, we're not seeing our fiscal future brighten significantly, I think it will be a time for tougher budget decisions. We would want to pivot sooner rather than later if the forecast is actually starting to look like this. So here is your summary slide. The district has a structural deficit. The preliminary general fund budget, again, requires a reserve transfer of 7.2 million. The reserve is projected to decline from 12% in fiscal year 25-26 end of year, all the way down to 9.7% on June 30th of 2027. In fiscal year 26-27, we have general fund revenue growth of 1.7, while expenditures and net transfers out are 2.1%. So the expenditures transfers out is exceeding revenues. The 5-year forecast we just showed has modest borrowing reoccurring through the 5-year forecast. The district will recognize some end-of-year savings at final budget, which may reduce the size of the general fund reserve transfer. And then the district is awaiting a decision on PPGMT add-on rate, which would contribute approximately $6 million a year. And then at last, the 5-year forecast identified significant new cost pressures with the addition of 2 new stations and the loss of SAFER funding. And that takes me to the recommendation, which is to adopt the resolutions for the preliminary budget amendments for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027.
Do you have any questions? Yeah, I have one for you. You said in the beginning of your statement that you're taking into account all of the property taxes, all of the growth and everything that's going on here. What I'm not seeing is any forecast in the new EMS fee structure. You can certainly, I would think, you could certainly forecast that as well. And I don't see any of that here. Is the reason that is?
That is built in. I will note that the MIH fees are not going to be activated until the contract runs out. But no, those are actually built in.
Okay, so the new fee structure that we just agreed upon is actually included in this.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Do you have a question? No. Being no other questions, we're going to take these.
Here's a question.
Oh, Director Rice has one.
Probably more for the fire chief, and it might be a little bit more historical. What was, Ted, you might know too, what was our parameters to open Station 68? I mean, I can't picture us building 2 fire stations on bare ground or minimal bare ground. People have to live there. Development has to go in. I don't necessarily see this as a plummeting hill to dive down. What are our parameters as we open staff fire stations?
I think I'm gonna have to defer this over to Jeff Fry because I think that's built into our standards of coverage. So he might be a better person to answer that.
So to your point, Director Rice, we do have a number of rooftops that is by the board adopted standard that you all passed. There is a lag in the demand and the need for new service and the revenues to fully staff it. That's when we need to get creative and how we get there. We also need to look at grants, as Dave said. So what we are trying to do with this is, and this is brand new coming out of planning development this year, is we now have software that can tell us exactly where our first due is and how many rooftops and how many property tax dollars are in there. And we can use that to project through the standard cover. So that is our attempt. We will redo this slide every year and keep the board informed so you can make real-time decisions. Right now, my biggest concern for Station 67 is the number of rooftops that we have that don't have first due coverage. It is a big number of rooftops. That is my biggest concern.
Any other questions? Okay, now we're going to take these one at a time. First is the resolution 2627 preliminary budget general operating fund 212A.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and second. Can you call the roll, please?
Yes, Director Sailors,
Aye.
Gould,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Clark, Jones,
Aye.
Rice,
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, we have resolution 2627 position authorization document.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, can you call the roll, please?
Yes, Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
C 2627 preliminary budget for capital facilities fund 2D.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, can we call
All right.
the roll, please?
Yes, Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Clark, Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Next, we have E 2627 preliminary budget for the development impact development impact fee fund.
We have the grants, 212G before that one.
Yes,
Okay, 212G, sorry.
you say G, not I?
D as in dog.
It's in dog.
Thank you. 212D.
No, 212G Grants Fund.
Oh, G.
I motion.
Second.
Great.
First and second called. Can I call the roll, please?
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Gould,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Rice,
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2627 preliminary budget for leased properties fund 212L. 212.
Develop,
212B.
212I should be Development Impact Fees Fund, right? Is that the next one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Line item E.
E, oh, I'm sorry, I crossed that
Yes,
one out.
okay.
A resolution 2627 preliminary budget for development impact fee fund 212G.
I make a motion.
Well, it should be 212I.
Aye,
yeah.
it's aye. It's okay. We have a second to Director Sailor's motion?
Sure.
Second with that.
212 aye, okay. Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
I'm
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Weber.
I
Thank you. Motion passes.
apologize. I
That's
inadvertently
okay.
did
No.
the one before that G and I, so.
Now we're on
Next,
L.
2627 preliminary budget for leased property funds 212L.
So moved.
Second.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
G 2627 preliminary budget for the Measure O Debt Service Fund 212N.
So moved.
Aye. Second.
Roll call.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Resolution 2627 preliminary budget for Measure O Building Fund 2120.
So moved.
Second.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. One more.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we got one more. Special Projects Fund 212S.
I don't have that one.
Mr. Chair, I'll move resolution 2627 preliminary budget for the Special Projects Fund 212S.
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Before we move on to reports, does anyone need a break? Nope. Okay. President's report. I have none. I'm standing in. So next we have Fire Chief's report.
Yes, good evening, directors, colleagues, member of the public. want to start off with an announcement of an appointment we made for Parker Wilborn to the rank of Assistant Chief. That's going to be effective June 15th, and Chief Wilborn will be assigned to the Chief Executive Director at the Sacramento Regional Fire EMS Communication Center for a 2-year term. He will start that position on July 1st. Fire camp is next week at Station 21, and that has been a good recruitment tool for this organization in the past. So hope to see you guys out there at some point during the week. And then Friday is the family day at the end where we wrap it up and talk about what the successes were. Thank you for all community services and all the team that's doing that, and all of our members that are working as counselors and retirees that are coming back as counselors. And it's going to be a great event, and it's obviously got more than a waiting list. So, and as you noticed on the CIP tonight, and I appreciate you adopting the CIP, CO2 cleaning was on there. And I have to take note of that for a couple of reasons. We talk about members' wellness and being proactive organization. I'm still convinced we'll be one of 2 in the state. There'll be a Southern California agency, probably Orange County Fire Authority, and us in the state that is taking a proactive approach to this, putting money where our mouth is for wellness for our members. As you received a text from me, I want to recognize some leadership in this organization that we've really stepped up. And I think Chief Wagaman is going to talk about that operationally. Our battalion chiefs, all of our members online, buying in, changing the culture, going through decon on the fire ground, wearing SCBA throughout the fire ground. We were able to help one of our neighboring organizations that did not have those tools. Captain Pittman stepped up, took it out of the back of his vehicle, and had decon of Folsom Fire Department members. I'm convinced that was on a lithium battery fire. I'm convinced we saved lives, saved firefighter lives. Thank you for adopting that. That's important. We talk about budget. We talk about putting more money where our mouth is, Chief Rice, or I'm going to always call you Chief Rice, Director Rice. Can't agree more. It's hard conversation. It's hard decisions that we have to make, right? The landscape is changing in the fire service. We recognize that. What are we doing about it? I think as easy it can be said, gloves are off. We have to look at everything. How we deliver EMS, how that division has worked, the number of staffing of paramedics versus EMTs, who and how we're hiring. It's a whole package. Captain Ellis and Captain White, thank you for coming here tonight and expressing what you've done, thinking outside the box. Those are easy yeses for me to say when they come and they say, can we try this? Absolutely. Melissa and your team, thank you for everything you're doing on recruitment and retention. And the last thing I want to comment on that will hopefully sum this up is, as we all know, this isn't a Metro Fire problem. This is a worldwide problem for paramedics. We say just nationally, no, it's worldwide. I can say that with a little bit of confidence today, better than probably last week. I flew back early from Milwaukee this morning, where it is only the fire chiefs that's invited to the International Association of Metropolitan Size Agency Fire Chiefs. About 75 to 100 active fire chiefs in the room. I spent a lot of my time talking to representatives of the fire chief, my colleagues from Singapore, Chile, Melbourne, Australia, and Jamie Moore, the fire chief of LA City, is who we sat with together as a group at most meals. This agency, I'm humbled by every time in that conference for the last 3 years that I've attended. This agency, I get picked out of that room and asked about a few things. How are we doing this exceptionally? Some of those are operations. I get comments on our operations, our men and women, how they handle themselves and put out fires on the fire ground is second to none. I'd put us against any organization. Members' wellness was a topic that was sought after. How are we doing this at Metro Fire? It's not perfect, but we're taking strides. MIH, of course, but the driving factor that I heard tonight from Captain White, and I believe this to be true because I not only heard it from going out on recruitment, but hearing it from our members. I think it's a reflection of this organization also. But the comment at that table with Singapore, Chile, Australia, and Jamie Moore, Fire Chief Moore, was man, your social media is second to none. And why would I bring that up tonight? It is how our newest members are getting into this organization, wanting to look at the organization. It's esprit de corps. It's how our members are showing and demonstrating their skill set, what this organization is doing internally and externally from a whole variety of areas. If we're going to be all risk, that's how we demonstrate it. I think the term of all risk in that landscape has also changed. So I'll end with that tonight because I know a lot of the stuff we want to hear is going to come from Chief Wagaman from the last two board meetings. I'll end there, but I am humbled again and couldn't be prouder coming back from a conference like that where you're just with the other fire chiefs, not just in the nation, in the world. So I'll end with that. If you have any questions, thank you for the time tonight.
Any questions for the chief? Thank you, Chief. Next up, operations report from, Chief Wagaman.
Hey, good evening, directors, Chief House and staff. Tyler Wagaman, Deputy Chief of Operations. With your operations report, first I would like to update you on the Metro Medic Program staffing efforts. As most of you are aware, on May 18th, Medic 626 was browned out, which resulted in a significant reduction in mandatory callbacks within that program. However, the week of May 25th, as well as the week of June 1st, we saw an uptick in mandatory callbacks. In response, we released an updated Metro Medic Staffing Contingency Bulletin on June 4th, which identified an additional brownout on June 8th of Medic 661, allowing Medic 61 to be upstaffed with available suppression personnel on a voluntary basis. Since implementing these measures, we have seen a notable decrease in mandatory callbacks within the MMP program. Looking at the last 4 days since this last brownout, there have been no mandatories, which is a good sign. The next Fire Academy is going to commence in just over a week, so we will need to continue monitoring the MMP staffing and so we can make necessary changes as needed. Next, I would like to spotlight some recent and upcoming promotions. I extend my heartfelt congratulations to Captain Montgomery, who will be promoted to the position of Battalion Chief, effective June 15th. Firefighter Sweeters will be promoted to the position of Fire Captain, effective June 16th. I would also like to thank the Human Resources Division, Training Division, and the numerous assessors who assisted in aiding during the recent engineers examination process. Congratulations are in order for the 25 candidates who successfully completed this process and are now on the eligibility list. We'll be proceeding with the next round of engineer promotions starting on June 16th. So congratulations in advance for our future engineers, specifically Kevin Stewart, A Shift, Engine 23, Thomas Atkins, A Shift, Engine 53, Jacob Coons, A Shift, Engine 105, David Smith, A Shift, Engine 108, and Philip Jacob, C Shift, Engine 105. This eligibility list will be in effect until June of 2028. On June 3rd, we held our Battalion Chiefs Quarterly meeting here at headquarters, which we had a record attendance of over 23 chief officers. This 3+ hour meeting provided us an opportunity to reinforce our communication processes, ensuring that we are aligned on our objectives to maintain our unity and to guarantee that our performance remains top tier. The Battalion Chiefs also took this opportunity to report on the impressive work being accomplished in over 40 different focus areas. One significant focus area is our Wildland Annual Refresher Training Initiative. Specifically, Battalion Chief Chris Vestal and Jason Vestal have developed a comprehensive Wildland Refresher Training program for this year, which includes a didactic session, tabletop exercises, and live fire training. This represents a significant undertaking as it includes all suppression members. As you know, as of now, the didactic and tabletop exercises have been completed and will be moving forward to the live fire component, which is scheduled to occur this month. To provide a more detailed report on the battalion chief's focus area from the eyes of the 5 operations assistant chiefs, as well as an in-depth look into the this year's Wildland annual refresher training, operations will be providing you a very thorough presentation on July 9th. With that, that concludes my report, but just a quick shout out in an event that's occurring right now in Rancho Cordova. We have 50 firefighters on what was reported a relatively small grass fire, but it got into a salvage yard, burned 30 vehicles. Happy to report the forward progress has been stopped. But again, we have 50 firefighters working in excessive heat right now. And at a drop of a hat, standing in the back of the room, I asked Chief Mitchell to take coverage. He's got it. I asked Mark Siebert in the back of the room to order dinner for 50 people. He's got it. I looked over at our EMS officer. EMS 24 has command coverage now in Battalion 14. That's awesome. Again, I'm standing here at a board meeting and stuff is just still happening. And that's when I see this agency thrive is give us a problem and we're going to fix it as quick as we can. And we tend to do it every single time. And I'm proud of this organization. So with that, that concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Chief. So we do not have an admin report or support services or support and emergency medical services with Chief Mitchell. Next, we have firefighter local 522, Captain Scholar. Okay, Captain Scholar, you have grown.
And gotten bald, right? Good evening, buddy. Everybody, board, chief house, people in the room. Russ Gardner, director, local 522 on behalf of 522 here to sort of talk about a few things, present items tonight and recognize a few people as far as being successful on our promotional exams. I had the honor to observe the engineer's exam during both phase 2 and phase 3 and the work that our men and women put in to prepare for that bared fruit for 25 of them, and they should be congratulated on those efforts. I'd also like to recognize the SME group that was led by Captain Hoy, and each phase had an individual lead, Engineer Lopez, Engineer Gardner, no relation, and Engineer Zanny, all set up a great test that tested the skills and the preparation of our candidates. All the people are being promoted, soon to be BC Montgomery and Captain Sweeters and all the engineers. Congratulations from 522. Sorry, I have notes. I don't have a PowerPoint. I'm usually better with a PowerPoint. So if I look down, it's just I'm trying to make sure I capture it. Academy 26-1, like we know, is starting. I'd like to recognize the DI staff, having spent some years out there myself. Probably the most rewarding and humbling thing that you can do for this organization is be recognized as a DI. My passion for that position is profound. Captain Beveridge has worked with me when I was there, and he's taken over the mantle as drill master, and they get to open up our brand new training center with the academy class, which is a pretty exciting time. Along with that, I also like to recognize that the way we staff that, right, it really relies on all of our members here to make that happen. You know, when we take our members and put them as DIs, we have to have others step up and fill those vacancies, right? So it's a total work group collaborative effort by everybody to make that happen so we can support and make sure that our members, when they get here as new fire recruits, graduate as firefighters and are meeting the expectation of the organization and the citizens they serve. So kudos to not only the DI staff, but the rest of the membership to step up and support that as well. Captain White, Captain Ellis, Alyssa, thank you for the presentation on recruitment and retention. I know that's a challenge and it's an ongoing conversation. You know, there's one thing that stood out to me during the presentation was the importance of wages, benefits, and working conditions, right? Those things are critical in making sure that we are sought after as an employer, right? To be employed by Metro Fire. So as we continue to work through that, those are all important things that that we recognize. And one thing that really stood out was the investment part, right? This is an ROI. Director Gould, talked a little bit about the old intern program, and I was one of them, right? And there's a huge portion of this organization, many in leadership positions that were a part of what was used to be that paramedic intern program. And if we want to talk about ROI, right, that's where it's at. It's an investment now so that we get committed, great people, able to make this organization run as well as it does. So those are some things, that maybe we might have to look at too as we move forward. A lot of today, they showed us the equation, right, that gets us to where we are now with our recruitment, but we're gonna have to tinker with that equation. And we're gonna have to find ways to be creative. And I know some of that work has been done through direction of the board and through the fire chief. As we continue to alter that and see what that looks like, it's going to take time to get there. We understand that. However, it's important that we get the ball rolling sooner than later, because change only happens when change gets started. You got to hit play, right? If you don't hit play, then you're just status quo and nothing's going to happen. So we look forward to working with administration on those concepts and supporting and being creative and finding not Band-Aids, but systemic solutions that can really help continue to move this organization forward. Couple things I think Director Weber asked about the number of firefighters, right? And 264. If I remember right, years ago we had 264 was the firefighters, and we started to transition some FDMs to MMPs, fire department medics to MMPs, and we sort of locked in 264 as positions in firefighters, and then we just stopped funding them technically on paper. And that's how we got MMPs conversion and squads and things like that. Right now, if I'm correct, we should be about 80 firefighters per shift. Times 3, it's 240. And then in our pad, it has a 10% pool. So that's how we get to the 264 number. When we look at that, that's an important number, right? Because where we're walking here on this treacherous line is we're solving a MMP staffing issue by reducing and closing some ambulances, right? And putting AMR into place, or putting a burden on the firefighter group, right? And we know right now our firefighters aren't at 264. Okay, so they're in a position where they're right on that cusp of being able to staff the spots that they have to. So if we look forward and forecast a little bit, and we look over the summer what that might look like, because right now one of the medics that's been closed from the MMP ranks is going to be hopefully staffed by firefighters, right? Well, that can be a challenge when you have a workforce that is, bordering on being that constant staffing level itself. So what we got to guard against a little bit is a message of firefighters aren't staffing that ambulance, right? That's an ambulance that is going to be based on overtime and willingness to work it. So we hope our members do and can continue to support that service to the community. But that problem that where we're at that has created it is a challenge that has been the theme over the last 2 board meetings, now into the 3rd, right? Recruiting and hiring and getting people to work here and keeping them, right? So hopefully we can, as we start hearing about Medic 61 not being in service, that's just a byproduct of where we're at with our firefighter staffing as well. Okay. We look forward to working on some of those solutions, and I think we can get there when it comes to the hiring stuff. But we've had a meeting last week on that, so hopefully we'll see some fruit soon. Budget, thank you, Dave, for the presentation there. Just want to remind everybody that it's projections, right? Historically, when you look back, sometimes the organization has performed better than what was projected. And if I remember, it wasn't very long ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, this current fiscal year is projected to have a major surplus, a budget surplus. So again, it's just those are projections, and we just have to be mindful of that and be able to work through those challenges, and understand the circumstance. PPGMT was brought up. I know we've worked hard on the labor side historically to get that rolling and get it moving. And we continue to hopefully, in the future, continue to see the fruits of those efforts as we move forward. And that, that rate increase, hopefully comes through as a result of those efforts put forward by labor, 522, CPF, and IFFF, right, out there working through. So that's all I have tonight. Any questions?
I see none. Thank you, Sean and Russ. Moving on to committee and delegate reports. Executive Committee did not meet today, so therefore our next meeting will be July 9th at 4:30 p.m. Communications, JPA, Chief Eureka. No report. Sorry, I read that. Finance and Audit Committee, Director Jones.
Thank you, Director Weber. Our Finance and Audit Committee will next meet on June 25th at 5:30 in these chambers. Thank you.
You. Policy Committee, Director Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Policy Committee met today. Couple items that we dealt with was board policy reinstatement policy. Also disruption of telephonic or internet service during public meetings policy. Our next meeting will be on July 9th, 2026.
Thank you, sir. Board and member questions and comments. Where are we at on that? Director Jones.
Thank you. No comment tonight.
Thank you.
No comment, sir.
Thank you. Director Wood.
No comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Gould.
Ditto.
Ditto. Director Sailors.
Ditto.
Director Rice. And I have no questions or comments as well. We're going to be adjourning to closed session. So bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
In a bit.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Go ahead. Don, you're going to close us out?
Yes, Director Weber. The board met in closed session under the closed session agenda item to meet with their designated labor negotiator for the labor groups that are identified in the agenda. No reportable action was taken. Thank you.
For now, we're going to adjourn this meeting. Our next board meeting is June 25th at 6 p.m. Good night.